The wind howled through Blackwood, Montana, a lonesome wail that carried the scent of pine and frost from the Flathead National Forest. Nestled in a valley shadowed by the Rock-ies, the town was a speck of life amid a wilderness that seemed to watch, its ancient trees whispering secrets older than memory. Detective Elias Kane stood at the edge of a forest clearing, his breath fogging in the dawn chill, his weathered face etched with lines earned over 2 decades of chasing ghosts. At 42, he was a man of few words, his gray eyes sharp as the Bowie knife on his belt, a relic from his army days. Canine Raven, his 3-year-old Belgian Malinois, paced beside him, her black and tan coat blending with the underbrush, her nose twitching with purpose. Trained to sniff out death, Raven was Elias's sharpest tool, and today her barks had led them to a nightmare. The call had come at 4 a.m., a hiker's panicked voice reporting a body in the forest 3 miles from Blackwood's main road. Elias, the lead detective for the Flathead County Sheriff's Office, had grabbed his gear and Raven, expecting a lost hunter or a bear mauling. But as he surveyed the clearing, his gut twisted. The body, sprawled in a bed of pine needles, was headless, its neck a jagged ruin of bone and tissue. The ground beneath oddly dry, no blood pool, no spray. The victim wore tattered jeans and a flannel shirt, no shoes, no wallet, no rings. Elias knelt, his gloved hand tracing the dirt. No footprints, no tire tracks, no drag marks. It was as if the body had fallen from the sky. Raven's barks sharpened, her paws digging at the earth 10 feet away. Elias joined her, his flashlight catching a glint, a silver pendant buried in the dirt, shaped like a crescent moon with a Blackfeet spiral etched inside. "Good girl," he murmured, bagging the pendant. Raven whined, her nose pointing to a cluster of pines, where claw marks scarred the bark, too high for a bear, too precise for a cougar. Elias's radio crackled, Deputy Sarah Teller's voice cutting through. "Elias, forensics is en route. You got anything?" "A headless John Doe," Elias said, his voice gravelly. "No ID, no head, no blood. Raven found a pendant. Blackfeet design. Tell Dr. Voss to bring the full kit." "Headless?" Sarah's voice faltered. "Elias, that's not normal. You think it's a dump job?" "No tracks," he said, his eyes scanning the trees. "No nothing. Get me a canvas of the hikers' trails and check missing persons. Montana, Idaho, Canada." The forest seemed to tighten around him, the pines looming like silent judges. Blackwood was no stranger to oddities. Missing hikers, strange lights, tales of the Blackfeet's Mistai, a forest spirit that lured men to their doom. Elias, a transplant from Bozeman, dismissed most of it as folklore. But Raven's unease was real, her hackles raised, her barks echoing into the dawn. Forensics arrived, Dr. Lena Voss leading the team, her sharp blue eyes scanning the scene. "No blood pool, no head," she said, crouching beside the body. "This guy was killed elsewhere, Elias, but moving a body this far without tracks, that's a puzzle." Raven didn't find a blood trail, Elias said, watching Canine circle the clearing. "Check for prints, DNA, anything." Voss nodded, her team swabbing the corpse. "Fingers are intact, but the neck wound, it's not clean. Something tore it, not cut it. I'll run DNA and prints, but don't hold your breath." Elias's jaw tightened. He'd seen bodies before, war zones, cartel hits. But this was different. The air felt heavy, like the forest was holding its breath. Raven's barks led him to a boulder, its surface etched with faint symbols. Spirals, like the pendant, but older, weathered. He snapped photos, his mind racing. Blackfeet land was sacred, and these woods held stories of rituals long buried. Back at the station, a squat brick building on Blackwood's main drag, Elias spread the case on his desk, the pendant, the symbol photos, and Voss's preliminary report. No fingerprints matched any database, local, state, or FBI. DNA was a dead end. No hits in CODIS or international systems. "It's like this guy didn't exist," Voss said, her voice clipped. "No dental records without a head. I'm running toxicology, but the body's clean. No drugs, no alcohol." Elias studied the pendant, its spiral glinting under the fluorescent lights. "Get this to Dr. Running Elk," he said, referencing the Blackfeet cultural liaison. "It's tribal. Might mean something." Sarah burst in, her face pale. "Elias, we've got a witness. Old man named Amos Creed. Lives in a cabin off Trail 17. Says he saw something last night." Amos Creed was a grizzled hermit, his cabin a mile from the crime scene, cluttered with traps and hides. Raven sat alert as Elias questioned him, the old man's eyes darting. "I was checking my snares at midnight," Amos said, his voice raspy. "Saw a figure in the woods, tall, too tall, like 8 feet. Eyes glowing red, moving fast. Ain't human, Kane. It was carrying something heavy, like a sack." "A sack?" Elias pressed, ignoring Raven's low growl. "You see where it went?" "North toward the ridge," Amos said, pointing a trembling finger. "I ain't going back. That's Mistai's ground." Elias thanked him, his mind churning. An 8-foot figure with glowing eyes was nonsense, but Amos's fear was real. He and Raven hiked to the ridge, K9's nose low, her barks guiding them to a cave mouth hidden by vines. Inside, the air was cold, the walls etched with more spirals, and a pile of ash marked a recent fire. Raven's barks zeroed in on a shard of bone, human, scorched but intact. Elias bagged it, his pulse quickening. Was this where the head went? The station buzzed with theories, but Elias kept his focus. Sarah pulled him aside, her voice low. "Elias, folks are talking. They think it's a ritual killing, like the old Blackfeet stories. And Amos's tale, it's spreading." "Let 'em talk," Elias said, his eyes on Raven, who was sniffing the bone shard. "We follow evidence, not ghosts." But that night, as Elias drove home, the forest seemed to watch. Raven growled at the darkness, her barks sharp. In his rearview mirror, Elias swore he saw a shadow, tall, eyes glinting red, before it vanished. He gripped the wheel, his heart pounding. The Mistai was a story, but Raven's nose didn't lie. Something was out there, and Blackwood's secrets were just beginning to surface. The Flathead National Forest loomed over Blackwood, Montana, its pines a silent jury under a sky heavy with clouds. The town, a cluster of weathered homes and faded storefronts, buzzed with unease, whispers of the headless body spreading like wildfire. Detective Elias Kane sat in his office at the Flathead County Sheriff's Office, the fluorescent lights casting shadows on his desk, where the crescent moon pendant from the crime scene glinted. A Blackfeet spiral etched in silver, its edges worn but sharp. K9 Raven, his Belgian Malinois, lay at his feet, her black and tan coat still dusted with forest dirt, her amber eyes fixed on the door as if expecting the unknown to walk through. The memory of the cave, claw marks, burned bone, and Amos Creed's tale of a tall figure with glowing eyes gnawed at Elias, a man who trusted steel and reason over ghost stories. The station was a pressure cooker, deputies fielding calls from spooked locals, while Dr. Lena Voss's forensics report offered no answers. No DNA, no fingerprints, no identity for the headless John Doe. The neck wound, torn rather than cut, suggested a force beyond human, but Elias pushed the thought aside. Raven's barks had led them to a cave with spirals and ash, a puzzle that demanded facts, not folklore. His radio crackled, Deputy Sarah Teller's voice urgent. "Elias, doctor, Running Elk's here. She's got something on the pendant." Dr. Anna Running Elk, the Blackfeet cultural liaison, stood in the bullpen, her gray braid a stark contrast to her sharp eyes. She held the pendant's photo, her fingers tracing the spiral. "This is a soul trap," she said, her voice low. "A ritual symbol banned by my people in the 1800s. It binds spirits, keeps them from crossing over. Whoever made this knew our old ways too well." Elias leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Banned why?" Anna's eyes darkened. The Mistai, a corrupted shaman, used it to steal souls, not just guide them. In 1873, a massacre near these woods ended the practice. 30 died, their bodies incomplete. "This pendant isn't a trinket, Kane. It's a warning." Raven whined, her nose nudging Elias's hand. He scratched her ears, grounding himself. "You're saying someone's reviving this ritual?" "I'm saying the forest remembers," Anna said. "The Mistai isn't just a man. It's a hunger. Be careful what you dig up." The words hung heavy as Elias and Raven returned to the cave, a mile north of the crime scene, its mouth hidden by vines and frost. The air inside was cold, the walls slick with damp. Raven's barks echoed, her nose locked on a crevice in the rock. Elias pried it open, revealing a hidden chamber, its floor littered with ash and blackened stones. A burned locket lay in the center, its surface scorched, no initials visible. Nearby, a bone-handled knife gleamed, its blade stained with dried tissue. Elias bagged both, his flashlight catching more spirals carved into the walls, deeper, angrier than before. "Raven, search," he commanded, and Canine's barks led to a pile of charred cloth. Remnants of a cloak maybe, but no fibers matched modern textiles. Voss's voice crackled over the radio. "Elias, that knife has human tissue but no DNA profile. Same with the locket, no prints, no engravings. It's like they're erased." "Erased how?" Elias pressed, his eyes on Raven, who was sniffing the ash. "Not degraded, wiped," Voss said. "I've never seen tech like this. Military, maybe?" Elias's gut churned. A ritual symbol, a body with no identity, and now evidence that defied science. He snapped photos of the spirals, their curves hypnotic, almost alive. Raven's growls deepened, her body tensing as a low hum filled the cave. Not wind, not water, but a chant, guttural and rhythmic. Elias's radio sparked, emitting static laced with words, Creole maybe, or Blackfeet. "Kwe, si, Nika." He shut it off, his pulse racing, but the sound lingered, a whisper in the dark. Back at the station, Sarah met him, her face pale. "Elias, we've got another witness. Kid named Tommy Blackbear, Blackfeet, 16. Says he saw your tall figure near the old sawmill on Route 9. The sawmill, abandoned since the 80s, was a skeleton of rusted beams and broken glass, 2 miles from the cave. Tommy, a wiry teen with wary eyes, sat in the interview room, Raven at Elias's side. "I was biking home at dusk," Tommy said, his voice shaky. "Saw it by the mill, tall like 9 feet, eyes red as fire. Moved wrong, like it wasn't solid, had a bag, heavy." "Describe the bag," Elias said, ignoring Raven's low growl. "Canvas, maybe," Tommy said. "It dropped something. Shiny, like your pendant." I ran. Elias and Raven headed to the sawmill, the forest closing in as dusk bled into night. Canine's barks cut through the silence, her nose leading to a clearing behind the mill. Claw marks scarred a pine, higher than any animal could reach, and a bloodless deer carcass lay nearby, its neck torn, no head. Elias's flashlight swept the ground, catching a glint, a shard of glass etched with a spiral, half buried. He bagged it, his mind racing. Another ritual site? Or a decoy? Raven's bark shifted, frantic, her paws digging at the soil. Elias joined her, unearthing a shallow grave, not human but animal. A coyote, headless, its hide carved with a spiral. The air grew colder, the forest too quiet. His radio sparked again, the same chant. Kwe, tsi, Nika. Louder, clearer. Elias spun, his Glock drawn, but the woods were empty. Raven growled, her eyes locked on a shadow among the pines. Tall, eyes glinting red. It vanished as he blinked, leaving only silence. At the station, Elias spread the evidence. The locket, the knife, the glass shard, the coyote's hide. Voss's analysis was grim. No DNA, no prints, only traces of an unidentifiable chemical on the knife. Sarah handed him a photo from the cave, developed from his camera. The spirals were clear, but in one corner, a shadow loomed. Tall, blurred, with red eyes that seemed to stare through the lens. "What the hell is this?" Sarah whispered. "Glitch," Elias said, but his voice lacked conviction. Raven whined, her nose on the photo, as if scenting the impossible. Anna Running Elk's warning echoed. The forest remembers. The sawmill, the cave, the spirals. They were pieces of a ritual Elias didn't understand, and Blackwood's past was clawing its way to the surface. The Flathead National Forest pressed against Blackwood, Montana, its pines a wall of whispers under a sky bruised with storm clouds. The town, already shaken by the headless body found in the woods, now simmered with fear, its streets empty save for the flicker of porch lights. Detective Elias Kane stood in the Flathead County Sheriff's Office, his gray eyes scanning the evidence board. The crescent moon pendant, the burned locket, the bone-handled knife, and a photo of the cave's spirals, their curves seeming to pulse. Canine Raven, his Belgian Malinois, paced beside him, her black and tan coat bristling, her bark sharp as if sensing the unseen. The memory of the sawmill, claw marks, a headless coyote, and a shadow with red eyes clawed at Elias's mind, a crack in his armor of skepticism. The station was a hive of tension, deputies dodging calls from locals demanding answers. Dr. Lena Voss's forensics report deepened the mystery. No DNA, no prints, no identity for the John Doe, and the knife's tissue traces defied analysis. Dr. Anna Running Elk's warning about the soul trap ritual, tied to the Mistai, a shaman who stole souls, hung heavy, amplified by Tommy Blackbear's sighting of a tall figure near the sawmill. Elias gripped the pendant, its spiral cold against his palm. Raven's whine snapped him back, her nose pointing to the door as Deputy Sarah Teller burst in, her face pale. "Elias, we've got another body," Sarah said, her voice tight. "Ravine off Trail 12, half a mile from the first. Raven needs to see this." Elias grabbed his gear, Glock, flashlight, the Bowie knife from his army days, and clipped Raven's leash. The ravine was a gash in the forest, its slopes slick with moss and shadow. Raven's barks led them to a clearing where a headless female body lay sprawled on a bed of ferns, her neck a torn ruin, no blood staining the ground. She wore a faded dress, no shoes, no jewelry, save a spiral pendant, identical to the first. Elias knelt, his gloved hand tracing the dirt. No tracks, no drag marks, no sign of a struggle. "Same M.O.," he muttered, bagging the pendant. Raven growled, her nose locked on a nearby pine, its bark scarred with claw marks too high for any beast. Dr. Voss arrived, her blue eyes scanning the scene. "Another clean dump," she said, swabbing the body. Torn neck, no blood, no ID. I'll run prints, but don't expect miracles. Any chance it's the same killer as 73? Elias asked, recalling Anna's mention of a 19th century massacre. Voss hesitated, her voice clipped. Possible. I'll check the archives. But this, 2 bodies, no traces. It's not normal, Kane. The forest seemed to tighten, the air thick with an unseen weight. Raven's barks shifted, guiding Elias to a boulder etched with spirals, deeper and more jagged than the caves. He snapped photos, his gut twisting. The mist-eye was folklore, but Raven's instincts were real, and Blackwood was unraveling. Back at the station, Sarah handed Elias a file, her hands unsteady. Found it in the basement. 1970s case. 3 headless bodies near the sawmill. No IDs, no DNA matches even back then. Sheriff called it a cult, blamed Blackfeet rituals, but it went cold. Look at this. She pointed to a grainy photo, a spiral pendant, near identical to theirs, found with the 70s victims. Same killer? Elias asked, his eyes narrowing. Or a copycat, Sarah said. The lead suspect was Caleb Stone, a Blackfeet outcast, banished for dark practices. Disappeared in 75. Elias's radio crackled, a local pastor's voice booming. Kane, you're stirring a curse. Stop digging or the mist-eye will take us all. Pastor Jacob Wells, a wiry man with fervent eyes, led a crowd outside the station, their signs reading, "Leave the dead alone." Elias faced them, Raven at his side, her growls low. "Go home," he said, his voice steel. "We're finding a killer, not a ghost." But the crowd's fear was a living thing, fed by whispers of the tall figure. Another witness, a gas station clerk, claimed to have seen it near the ravine at midnight, 9 feet, eyes like embers, moving without sound. Elias dismissed it, but Raven's unease gnawed at him. He took her to the sawmill, the rusted husk looming under a sickle moon. Raven's barks pierced the silence, her nose leading to a collapsed shed. Inside, a ritual circle of stones surrounded a pile of ash, a journal page crumpled at its center. Elias unfolded it, the handwriting jagged. The watcher sees without eyes. It hungers for the lost. Raven's growls deepened, her body tensing as a shadow flickered beyond the beams. Tall, fluid, gone in a blink. Elias swept his flashlight, finding only dust. "Raven, search," he commanded, and Canine's barks zeroed in on a loose floorboard. He pried it open, revealing a trapdoor to a cellar, its air cold and sour. A bloodless altar stood at the center, carved with spirals. A locket from the 70s glinting on its surface. No initials, no prints. Elias bagged it, his pulse racing. The journal's words, "sees without eyes," echoed, a riddle he couldn't crack. That night, Elias's cabin was hit. He woke to Raven's frantic barks, his truck's hood scarred with spiral symbols, painted in ash. Through the window, a figure loomed, tall, eyes red, motionless, before vanishing into the pines. Elias's Glock trembled in his hand, his breath ragged. Raven growled, her nose on the ash, as if scenting something beyond flesh. At dawn, Anna Running Elk met him at the station, her face grim. "You're marked, Kane," she said, touching the pendant. "The mist-eye sees you. It wants your soul." Elias scoffed, but his voice faltered. "It's a killer, Anna, not a spirit. Raven's nose doesn't lie." "Then follow her," Anna said, her eyes piercing. "But the forest knows you now." Raven's barks led Elias back to the sawmill, her nose locked on the trapdoor. He descended, the altar's spirals seeming to writhe in the flashlight's beam. A faint hum rose, like the cave's chant, "Qui, tsi." Nika. And Raven's growls erupted, her body poised. Elias spun, his light catching a fresh spiral carved into the wall, still damp with sap, as if etched moments ago. The forest was closing in, and the eyeless watcher was no longer a shadow, it was hunting. The Flathead National Forest gripped Blackwood, Montana, its ancient pines swallowing the last light of a November dusk. The town, a fragile outpost against the wilderness, pulsed with dread. Its people shuddered behind locked doors, whispering of curses and shadows. Detective Elias Kane stood in the Flathead County Sheriff's Office, his weathered hands pinning new evidence to the board. 2 spiral pendants, a burned locket, a bone-handled knife, and a journal page scrawled with the watcher, "Sees without eyes." Canine Raven, his Belgian Malinois, sat vigilant, her amber eyes glinting, her barks a rare anchor in a case that defied reason. The headless bodies, the 1970s killings, and the tall figure with red eyes, seen by Amos Creed, Tommy Blackbear, and now a clerk, haunted Elias, a man whose faith in facts was crumbling under the forest's gaze. The station was a fortress under siege, deputies dodging Pastor Jacob Wells's protests outside, his flock chanting against Elias's blasphemy. The second body, a woman, had deepened the town's fear, its bloodless dump mirroring the first. Dr. Lena Voss's forensics were a dead end. No DNA, no prints, only a chemical trace on the knife that baffled analysis. Dr. Anna Running Elk's warning, "You're marked, Kane," echoed, her claim that the Mistai hunted his soul gnawing at him. The sawmill's bloodless altar, with its 1970s locket and fresh spiral, was a taunt, and Raven's barks at the trapdoor had left Elias sleepless, the chant, "Kwe Chi Nika," ringing in his ears. Deputy Sarah Teller burst in, her face grim. "Elias, we've got a lead. Raven's nose is needed at the ridge. Hikers found carvings near the cave, same spirals. And I dug up more on Caleb Stone, the 70s suspect. He was banished for rituals, but his family stayed. Guess who's related?" Elias's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "Lena Voss," Sarah said, sliding a file across the desk. "Her grandfather was Caleb's cousin. She never mentioned it." Elias gripped the file, his pulse quickening. Voss, the forensic expert, had been clinical, detached, but her hesitation at the ravine now felt like a mask. Raven whined, her nose on the spiral pendant, as if scenting betrayal. "Get Voss in for questioning," Elias said, "and keep it quiet." The ridge was a labyrinth of rock and pine, a mile from the first cave. Raven's barks led Elias through a maze of boulders, her nose locked on a hidden crevice. He squeezed through, the air turning cold, the walls etched with spirals that seemed to pulse in the flashlight's beam. The crevice opened into a network of caves, their chambers linked by narrow tunnels, each marked with altars of stone and ash. Raven's growls deepened, her paws scraping at a mural. A towering figure with red eyes labeled Mistai in faded script, its hands clutching spirals. A locket lay at its base, its chains snapped, its surface etched with a date, 1972. Elias bagged it, his breath shallow. Another 70s victim, still no DNA. Raven's bark shifted, frantic, guiding him to a pile of bones, human, scorched, too small for an adult. A child? His stomach churned as he bagged them, the cave's silence oppressive. A faint hum rose, the same chant from the sawmill. "Kwe Chi Nika," vibrating through the rock. Elias's radio sparked, emitting static laced with a scream. Not human, not animal. He shut it off, but the sound lingered, a blade in the dark. Back at the station, Sarah met him, her voice low. "Voss is dodging us. Said she's at a conference in Missoula, but her phone's pinging locally. And Caleb Stone's file, It mentions a lair in the forest never found. "Raven'll find it," Elias said, clipping Canine's leash. But Voss's absence was a red flag, and the caves were a map to something older, darker. Anna Running Elk arrived, her gray braids swaying as she studied the mural photo. "This is a soul trap shrine," she said, her voice grave. "The Mistai doesn't just kill, it binds. That locket, the pendants, they're keys, locking souls to this world." Elias's jaw tightened. "Keys to what?" "Suffering," Anna said. "The ritual needs blood, but the Mistai needs fear. You're in its web, Kane." That night, Elias and Raven returned to the caves, the forest a wall of shadow. Raven's barks led deeper, through tunnels slick with frost, to a chamber vast as a cathedral. An altar dominated its center, piled with bones and ash, spirals carved into every surface. Raven's growls erupted, her body tensing as a shadow moved, tall, fluid, eyes red. Elias drew his Glock, his flashlight sweeping, but the figure was gone. A click echoed and the ground gave way, a spiked trap yawning beneath him. Raven lunged, her teeth sinking into his jacket, pulling him back as steel spikes snapped shut inches from his legs. "Good girl," Elias gasped, his heart pounding. Raven barked, her nose on the trap's edge, where a wire glinted. Modern, not ancient. Someone had set this, someone human. The chant returned, louder, and Elias's flashlight caught a glint. A drone, small, hovering in the dark, its lens red as eyes. It darted away, leaving only silence. At the station, Elias confronted Voss, who'd returned, her blue eyes cold. "Where were you, Lena?" he asked, holding up the locket. "This is from '72. Your grandfather knew Caleb Stone." "Talk." Voss's smile was thin. "Family history isn't evidence, Kane. That locket's a relic, nothing more." Raven growled, her nose on Voss's bag, and Elias's gut screamed. Sarah handed him a report. The chemical on the knife matched a rare solvent, patented by a Missoula lab, where Voss consulted. "We're watching you," Elias said, his voice ice. Voss left, her silence a challenge. Anna led a Blackfeet ritual at dusk, burning sage to cleanse Elias's mark. As the smoke rose, he saw a vision, a tall figure, eyes red, spirals swirling around it, its voice the chant. Raven's bark snapped him free, her nose on a new trail. She led to the sawmill, to a hidden panel in the cellar. Elias pried it open, revealing a lab. Vials of clear liquid, a centrifuge, and a photo of Voss, her arm tattooed with spirals, standing beside a drone schematic. Raven's growls filled the room, and Elias knew the Mistai was no spirit. It was a lie, and Voss was its architect. The Flathead National Forest loomed over Blackwood, Montana, its pines a silent shroud under a moonless sky, the air thick with the scent of frost and secrets. The town battered by fear of the Mistai, a red-eyed shadow tied to headless bodies, clung to fragile hope, its streets empty save for candlelit windows. Detective Elias Kane stood outside the Flathead County Sheriff's Office, his gray eyes scanning the darkness, his hand resting on the Bowie knife from his army days. Canine Raven, his Belgian Malinois, sat alert, her black and tan coat blending with the night, her barks a beacon in a case that had pushed Elias to the edge. The evidence: spiral pendants, a burned locket, a bone-handled knife, and a lab with DNA scrubbing toxin, pointed to Dr. Lena Voss, the forensic expert whose lies had woven a web of terror. The station was a war room, deputies poring over Voss's records. Her link to Caleb Stone, the banished Blackfeet shaman of the 1970s, her Missoula lab patents, and the drone schematic from the sawmill's hidden lab. 2 headless bodies, no DNA, no prints, and a trail of spirals tied to the soul trap ritual had shaken Blackwood, fueled by sightings of a tall figure with red eyes. Dr. Anna Running Elk's warning, the Mistai needs fear, and the cave's spiked trap haunted Elias, but Raven's nose had cracked the case, her barks uncovering Voss's betrayal. Deputy Sarah Teller met him in the bullpen, her voice urgent. "Elias, Raven's got a hit. Voss's cabin, 5 miles out. Her phone's there, and we've got a missing teen. Mia Carver, 15. Last seen near the ridge." Elias clipped Raven's leash, his jaw tight. "We move now. Get SWAT and Anna. If Mia's alive, we don't wait." The drive to Voss's cabin was a blur, the forest a tunnel of shadow. Raven's barks pierced the silence, her nose locked on the cabin's dirt path. The cabin, a squat log structure, glowed faintly, its windows curtained. Elias signaled SWAT to surround it, his Glock drawn, Raven at his side. A hum rose like the cave's chant, "Qui, Tsi, Nika," and a drone darted from the trees, its red LED eyes glinting. Elias shot it down, its wreckage revealing a canister of aerosolized toxin. "Hallucinogen," he muttered, the tall figure's mystery unraveling. Raven's growls deepened, her paws scraping the cabin's door. Elias kicked it open, the air inside sour with chemicals. Voss stood at a workbench, vials of clear liquid glinting, a spiral tattoo visible on her arm. "Kane," she said, her voice calm. "You're too late. The Mistai is awake." "No Mistai," Elias said, his Glock steady. "Just you, Lena. Your toxin wipes DNA. Your drones fake the shadow. Where's Mia Carver?" Voss's smile was venom. "Purifying Blackwood requires sacrifice. Caleb Stone saw it. Outsiders poison this land. I'm his heir, his vision." Raven's barks erupted, her nose on a trapdoor beneath the workbench. Elias pried it open, revealing a tunnel, its walls etched with spirals. SWAT secured Voss, but her laugh echoed. "The forest keeps its own, Kane. You'll see." Elias and Raven descended, the tunnel narrowing, the chant louder, real now, not static. Raven's barks led to a cave chamber, an altar at its center piled with bones and ash. Mia Carver bound beside it, alive but dazed. A second drone hovered, spraying toxin, its red eyes glowing. Elias smashed it, his vision blurring as the chemical hit. Spirals swirling, a tall figure looming. Raven's teeth sank into his sleeve, dragging him clear, her barks grounding him. He freed Mia, her sobs a lifeline, and carried her out as the cave rumbled, Voss's remote trigger collapsing the tunnel behind them. Back at the cabin, Voss was cuffed, her confession recorded under floodlights. Caleb's soul trap was truth, she spat. The toxin erased their identities. John Doe, Jane Doe, the 70s victims. Drones spread fear, made the Mistai real. Blackwood needed cleansing. She'd targeted transients and runaways, staging bodies to mimic Blackfeet lore, her labs solvent scrubbing DNA and prints. The 1970s killings were Caleb's, her grandfather's cousin, and Voss had revived his mission, believing she channeled the Mistai. The chant was a recording, amplified by drones to sow panic. Elias's radio crackled, Sarah's voice breaking through. "Elias, Mia's safe. Hospital's got her. You did it." "Raven did," Elias said, scratching Canine's ears. But Voss's words, "the forest keeps its own," lingered, a splinter in his mind. The trial was swift. Voss convicted of 4 murders, 2 recent, 2 from the 70s, linked by her lab's toxin, and Mia's kidnapping. Her $2 million lab, funded by black market patents, was seized, its assets aiding victims' families. Blackwood's fear eased, replaced by resolve. Anna led a Blackfeet vigil at the ridge, sage smoke rising as drums echoed, cleansing the forest of the Mistai's shadow. Candles glowed for the nameless victims, their lockets laid on a stone altar, the spirals now symbols of peace. Raven, awarded a K9 medal, lay by Elias's feet, her barks silent, but her presence a shield. Elias stood alone at the vigil's end, touching the crescent moon pendant, now a keepsake. "We got him," he murmured, his voice soft. Closure was a fragile gift, but he embraced it, vowing to guard Blackwood's wild heart. At midnight, Raven's barks pierced the quiet, leading Elias to the forest's edge. Her nose dug at the soil, unearthing a new pendant, its spiral engraved with LM-Lily Moreau, a teen missing from Idaho. Voss was gone, but the forest whispered of new shadows, and Elias knew their fight wasn't over.